1.25. So should end in around like 4 minutes. So let's watch this together, and we can then talk about it. This gives you an idea about how the algorithm works, because there are a lot of questions that people ask is like, should I rank programs that I'm perceiving will be kind of like ranking me high, or how should I approach this?
The NRMP uses a computerized mathematical algorithm to place applicants into residency and fellowship positions. At NRMP, we call it the matching algorithm, as we use it to match applicants to their most preferred programs. The algorithm is applicant proposing, meaning it initiates placement of an applicant into a program based on the choices made on the applicant's rank order list, and not a program's rank order list. However, for a match to occur, both the applicant and program must rank each other. When started, the algorithm attempts to match each applicant to the applicant's first choice. If that can't be guaranteed, the algorithm will try to match the applicant to the second choice, and so on, until the applicant is matched or all choices have been exhausted. Let's run a match to see how it works. 5 applicants, Arthur, Sunny, Joseph, Latha, and Darius, and 3 programs, Mercy, City, and General, have submitted rank order lists. Each program has 2 openings. Starting with Arthur, we see he ranked only City. Because the algorithm is applicant proposing, it will attempt to match Arthur to City. City has ranked Arthur second, and because there are no other tentative matches for City, Arthur is tentatively matched to City. Matches are considered tentative because an applicant who is matched to a program at one point in the matching process may be removed from the program later to make space for an applicant ranked higher by the program. Sunny also ranks City first, and the algorithm attempts to match her there. City ranks Sunny third. Because City has 1 opening left, Sunny is tentatively matched to City. Joseph also ranks City first. The algorithm attempts to match Joseph to City, but because both openings are tentatively matched to higher ranked applicants, Joseph can't match at City. The algorithm now attempts to match Joseph to his second ranked program, General. General has ranked Joseph third, and since there are no tentative matches for General yet, Joseph is tentatively matched to General. Latha ranked Mercy first, but Mercy didn't rank Latha, so she can't match there. The algorithm moves to her second rank, City. City is ranked Latha, but City already has its 2 positions filled with more preferred applicants. She cannot match with City. The algorithm attempts to match Latha to her third rank, General, which has 1 unfilled position, so Latha tentatively matches with General. Finally, the algorithm attempts to match Darius. Darius is ranked City first, and City is ranked Darius first. Darius receives a confirmed match because he's the applicant most preferred by City. There's no chance he will be displaced later in the process. However, since City has only 2 openings, an applicant must be removed from City to make room for Darius. That applicant is Sunny, because she is the least preferred applicant on City's rank order list. The algorithm will now attempt to match Sunny to her second rank, Mercy. Mercy hasn't ranked Sunny, so she does not match to any program. The process is now complete, and the match is final. All applicants except Sunny have matched to their most preferred choices possible. Although all of Sunny's choices have been attempted, she didn't match at City because Darius and Arthur were ranked higher by City, and she couldn't match at Mercy because Mercy didn't rank her at all. City in general filled all of their positions, but Mercy is left with both positions unfilled. Mercy didn't use the match to its advantage because it submitted a shorter rank order list. Joseph, Latha, and Darius used the match to their advantage by ranking all acceptable programs at which they interviewed in their preferred order to maximize their chances of matching. Arthur took a real risk by ranking only City. Data showed that applicants with short lists have a higher likelihood of being unmatched. Remember, a match commitment is binding, which means an applicant is obligated to accept the position and begin training if a match occurs. To learn more about the matching algorithm, visit the NRMP website.
All right. So few basic things that this kind of answers is, sure, that algorithm is in your favor. It ranks you first. It tries to put you into the list of your preferred choice of program, and then it kind of matches the program with it. It's a two-way process. I understand, like, you wish to be at a big program, but the big program might not have ranked you high enough, then the algorithm will go down. So if there is any concerns where you're thinking like, oh, I'm perceiving that this program will rank me higher, you can rank that program as your last program. You will end up matching over there. It's just that don't use that perspective. It's not appropriate. You are supposed to rank the programs depending upon where you want to be, not from the fact that where the program will be ranking. So that's really important. Few more points that this video kind of points out is longer list helps. Of course, it makes sense. Longer the list is, the more chances you have to match. But then even one program is sufficient. Have we seen people who have matched with single interview? Yes. Have we seen people who go unmatched with dozens of interview? Yes. We have seen both the perspectives. So rank all the programs you have. Don't be picky about them, especially in the current competitive environment. And then let's hope for the best. That's pretty much it. So this is what I tried to explain from this video is you don't have to rank the programs perceiving what the program will be doing for you. It's your choice. You rank them. And even if the program that you felt it will be highly ranking you, even if it's your last choice, you will end up matching over there. The other video is also recommended to watch. It's about how to approach the rank order list. So that's again from NRMP. So I would recommend everyone to watch it before they start working on the rank order list. This is a kind of like a bird's eye view on two different types of visas that usually foreign graduates are offered when they come in, unless you're a green card or a citizen. So the two types of visas that are offered is J1 and H1. The reason I'm going over this slide is because at times this is a deciding factor for many individuals when they're making their rank order list. So what is the difference between the J1 and an H1B visa? So the status is non-immigrant. Exchange visitor trainee is the J1 visa. It was kind of conceived in a way that it is supposed to promote information exchange, knowledge exchange between two countries, where individuals will be coming into US, they will be training, and then they will be going back to their home countries to serve and to kind of like disseminate the knowledge that they gathered while they were in US. While on the flip side, H1 is a temporary worker visa. It is given to a wide variety of professions, but physicians, mostly hospitals, are CAP exempted. So it's much more easier for us to get as a physician in an H1B because you don't come under the CAP. CAP is a very different topic. You don't have to worry about it because hospitals that are sponsoring H1B are CAP exempted, so you don't have to worry about it. The filing process, program pays no fee, so it has less clerical burden on the program because the program coordinator can do the paperwork that is required for J1, and you pay the fee to ECFMG and Homeland Security, and then you require a statement of need from your home country as well that this training will be really beneficial for you and the country itself. On the other side, H1B, it's a little bit more intense on the pocket because you have to hire a lawyer, then you have to file an application with USCIS. So there is some fee associated with it because lawyers never work for free. And then USCIS always charges a fee for any application that you put in. Then you will also there. So some programs pay these fees, some programs don't. Especially the Northeast side is pretty known to not cover many part of these fees, and so you might end up paying this out of your own pocket. One part that is pretty consistent is that the premium processing that you do to expedite your application is pretty much not paid by majority of the programs. So that's something that will be coming out of your pocket. It's $2,500. So if you are pursuing H1B, make sure that you have those finances ready, or somebody in US who is willing to pay those in dollars, because getting dollars out of Pakistan is really difficult. I had to struggle. I had to like maybe work for like 3 weeks to get that paycheck into my lawyer's account from Pakistan. But then paperwork is much more easier for H1B. You need your license from Pakistan. You need, some states require that you have the state's medical limited license before you can apply. Some states don't, like New York has an exemption, but Massachusetts kind of like makes you have the license before you can apply for an H1B. That kind of like makes you more aware that you have to start your licensing process as soon as you have matched. But then other documents are your degree and other things from that you already have in your hand. It's pretty straightforward. Rejections of the basis of not having strong ties to home. So if you can clearly see, J1 is more so designed in a way that the person will be going back home. So that's what they try to assess. when they're trying to like do an interview for a J1 applicant. So you can be rejected if the interview taker is not being like he's not convinced enough that you will be coming back home. The chances of this rejection has significantly gone down thanks to people like Dr. Fateh Shahzad and many others who have been working in the APNA advocacy. I remember 3 years ago or 4 years ago, there was like 26, 27 people who were stuck in Pakistan and their J1s were being held. But now that number has come down to literally zero at this point. Yes, some of the visas do go into administrative processing, but even those get processed. And I think last year, everyone made it to the residency spots within 30 days of starting the residency cycle. So H1B is highly unlikely to go into administrative processing or rejections. But yes, I have heard H1Bs going into administrative processings and have taken a very long time as well. So it can happen. Unlikely, but it can happen. Security clearance is required by both visas. That is done by Homeland Security. Usual length of visas is J1 is 7 years and H1B is 6 years. Our transition to fellowship for J1 is relatively easier because a lot of programs, just because of the administrative work that comes with the H1B, are preferring to sponsor J1 so that they don't have to do a lot of paperwork that comes with it. But then all of the majority big programs, like the big university programs, sponsor any visa that you have. But then again, it's a very competitive market to get an H1B fellowship. So it's a relatively harder aspect for H1B applicants. Transition to independent practice / green card, it's much more easier for H1B because you don't have the waiver requirements of the J1. And then moonlighting, there have been like most programs on H1B are okay with doing moonlighting because it's a worker's visa. But then mostly it needs to be done within your own campus or within the same system, because you cannot be paid by another individual while you're on an H1B. H1B person needs to be paid by the same sponsoring authority that got you into US. While moonlighting on J1 is no, and step 3 is required for step H1B. There is no exemption to it. Step 3 will be required. So you will have to have a score report, passing score report in your hand before you can apply for H1B, or as the program will continue to push you to get J1 instead. Now let's just approach what is match. Like, how do people kind of like approach it, like how people kind of like develop their own algorithms, their own thought processes to kind of like approach the match and the rank order list. So these are all different school of thoughts. There are no preferences. These are not something that I have put into like preference wise. These are just intentions that people have when they're making their own rank order list. Ranking programs on their merit, reputation, like of course a university program is definitely better than a low tiered community program. People would like to train at a big name, because when you're coming to US, you want to train at the best places, you want to get the best of training, you want to get the most of clinical exposure, research experiences. So definitely a university program can now end up offering you more of that. Is community program bad? No, I'm not saying that. It's just that it's all about prestige at the end of the day. It's all about reputation. I would love to be a graduate of Harvard Medical School rather than being a smaller community program somewhere. So it's all about what you want. Then there are individuals who prefer have a preference for visa type. I highly recommend this for people who have had significant problems, especially getting the B1, B2 or prior visas, because if you have had multiple rejections, then I would highly recommend that you should consider getting an H1 rather than a J1. But then again, we have resources available at this point. If you are one of those individuals who does not have an option and will be pursuing J1, I would reach out to APNA as soon as possible and kind of like get your things sorted out so that the advocacy can start playing its role even before you reach the embassy to give your interview. Then some people have immigration intentions, which is absolutely fine. That's why H1B is being preferred at that point. Then some people have preference for geography. Like I have family in Chicago. I would love to be in Chicago and I'm going to rank all the Chicago programs on the top. Or I have preference for Northeast or West or South Coast. So it totally depends on your preferences. And these are the most commonly perceived reasons when people approach, how people approach the rank order list. One thing that I pointed out earlier as well, do not rank the programs on the basis that they will be ranking you high. Even if they're ranking you high, does not matter. You can rank them as your last program. Algorithm works in your favor and it will match you at that program as long as you have ranked it and the program has ranked you high. That's pretty much it from my side.
Thank you very much, Gulrez. Very comprehensive presentation. Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep.
As possible. I do understand that our participant capacity is 100, so some people may not be able to join, but hopefully, and inshallah, next meeting we'll do in a webinar manner. We have, it has been almost 25 minutes. I want to go around the room and ask, panelists to speak for maybe about 2 to 3 minutes about their views on it. So then we can move on to frequently asked questions. For Fateh Bhai, I really want you to address how Apna Advocacy Committee is handling the visa issues at this time and what work has been like in the last couple of years. So I will start with Dr. Umar Tariq. He has a lot of experience. I already did introduction for you, Dr. Umar. So if you want to share your views about rank order list, just in brief, 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. So guys, I quickly, before we move on to the rank order list, I'll quickly talk about what I think your visa, your residency interview process should be like. So first thing, whenever you're interviewing, have a paper or an Excel sheet or something and write pros and cons of your interview process. There are places that you like, there are places you don't like. The problem is 3 months later, it's very tough to remember what you liked and what you didn't like about a place. So always write your pros and cons throughout the interview process. That's number one. That Excel sheet or that paper on which you're writing your pros and cons about every program is going to help you immensely when you prepare your rank order list. Number two, I have personally seen at least 3-4 residents lose their residency spot because they failed to certify their rank order list. So that is also very important. Make sure you're familiar with the process of a rank order list. You certify your rank order list before the deadline. The third thing is specifically for those applicants who are applying for non-categorical positions. By non-categorical, I mean it's like you have to interview for prelims separate and advanced separate. People who are going for radiology, anesthesiology, residencies like that. So in that case, you have to remember, you not only have to make an advanced list, you have to make a corresponding prelim list for every advanced program. So for every single advanced program, you put in that if I matched into this advanced residency position, then this is the corresponding prelim list. So make sure you're familiar with all of this. Next, what I would say, every person is different, right? Blue is my favorite color. It is not necessarily your favorite color. So everyone has their own factors that are important to them based on their personal and financial, financial status. So in that case, write down the number of factors that are very, very important for you right now. The factors that were important to me were not at all, it's entirely possible were not at all important to anybody else here. So I will quickly just recap the factors that people consider. Number one is if you're looking at the long-term and fellowship chances after training, the university programs are definitely better than community programs. If you're looking for intense training, a lot of people feel like, let's say if you're going in surgery, psychiatry, in those programs and those specialties, community programs offer better training because you're doing less research and you're spending a lot of time seeing a lot of heavy patient load. Then there's a question of visa. Of course, there's no questions for most of the people, H1 is better than J1. And Dr. Gulrez Ahmed made an excellent presentation. So that was very helpful for you to decide. I would recommend everyone to take H1. Go J1 only as a backup. But again, there are different situations for different people. I know people who have deliberately picked J1 on top of H1, but that is the reason because their spouse wanted to work. So J1 comes with its own benefit that your spouse can work. Then location. If you have family, if I have my uncle, aunt, chacha, khala, whoever in New York or California, I want to be close to them. That's another thing that people use, location. Then, there is fellowship placements. Look at the programs. Like if I go to UPMC and UPMC accepts their residents for fellowships, that's great. But then there are other programs. Waterbury Hospital has excellent surgical fellowship placements. They all go to Hopkins, Howard. They don't have their own fellowship, but their fellows go to better places after. So these are the things that people say, where is the fellowship placements? Do they accept their own candidates versus do people go to other good programs for fellowships? And then, the two big factors that were very important for me when I was, it wasn't any of those, which is weirdly enough, but one was spouse friendliness of a program, that does it give residency to your wife afterwards, versus cost of living. I was coming from California. I was living in a 1-bedroom studio, paying $2,000 in rent. My parents would visit me. It was very challenging, So cost of living was important. I ranked Yale University on top of Stanford University. I wouldn't do that again. But Stanford just clearly told me that there's no way we could accommodate your wife. So spouse friendliness was very important for me. Cost of living was very important to me. So I wanted to relocate to East Coast for reduced cost of living as compared to West Coast. And in general, East Coast, Midwest, and South programs are more spouse friendly than West Coast programs. So just quickly, just to recap, I talked about long-term chances, fellowship placements, better training, university programs, intense clinical trainings, community programs are better, visa status, H1 versus J1, H1 is better, location and proximity to family, cost of living, spouse friendliness, fellowship placements, internal and external. So that's all I got. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. And if you ask a psychiatrist, I will also always advise you to stay with your family so you can keep the family unit intact. If you will ask me as a husband, just go at separate places. That's a joke. So Dr. Fateh Shahzad, I want you to share about what Apna Advocacy Committee is doing for visa issues, like in 2 to 3 minutes. And then I can also pull the link for Visa Helpline.
Assalamu alaikum. We've been helping for the last few years, and as Gulrez mentioned, last year and year before, everybody made on time. There were 1 or 2 who made mid-July, but 100% did make to the residency, except one resident who did accept next year position, so she is coming this year. So what we usually do after match is announced, we make a WhatsApp group for all those who matched. And then we will start assisting you. The first step will be to get, if most of you will be applying for J1, as very few program offer H1. So you will require certificate of need. For that, you will need your diploma certified from PMC. So we will give you a kind of guidance how to do that. I'm working with Dr. Taki as well as Faisal Sultan to get this done online instead of by mailing or going physically, and then transferring your diplomas to Health Department or Ministry of Health, and then certificate of need being uploaded directly to ECFMG. It will save 4 weeks. So advocacy is working on that, and we were promised by both authorities that they will do this year. So once you have your diploma certified and PMC SON need, then you're going to send those to ECFMG for J1, and ECFMG is going to apply on your behalf for DS 2019. Once you get DS 29, that will be mailed to your program, and the program is going to mail it to you. Sometime they can fax it or email, but mostly they do mail. And once you have DS 2019, you will go and apply for your visa. But I would recommend you should do a start application process. You can save your application, not submit it, but you start soon. So if you have any questions, you can contact Advocacy Apna or YPC Apna, then we can guide you. So once you have applied for, then we will prepare you with the application as well as with the interview, what to say, what not to say, what kind of document to take with you. And unfortunately, if your visa goes into administrative process, then we will help you to expedite that. Fortunately, no J1 or H1 visa was refused in last 2 years, hoping that this will not be refused this year also. One more thing we're trying to do is trying to waive J1 and H1 visa interview if possible, because there's a shortage of staff at both embassy in Islamabad and consulate in Karachi. So they have done in so many other countries, but unfortunately Pakistan, they have not done it yet. But we're working on that at least for the match time, if they can waive J1 and H1 visa interview. If you have any question, most of you have my information. Otherwise, you can get through YPC and Advocacy Committee or Apna. Thank you.
Thank you, Fateh. I think there are a lot of questions about the visa process. I think we will do a separate webinar on visa process too.
Yes.
This webinar, we just want to keep to rank order list and any visa questions in that purview. I want to share quickly the Apna link for that. So if you go on Apna website, apna.org, at the very bottom it says Visa Issues Helpline. So if your visa is falling outside of the normal deadlines, and or if you have any sort of issues, you can just go here and click J1 and H1 related issues. So once they get, this form, it goes to State Department and it also goes to Apna Advocacy Committee personnel, and then they are actively involved. They cannot, definitely make them do. They cannot make them issue your visa, but we can definitely advocate for you, and it has been very successful. So I will go to Dr. Maroof. So Shahram, if you can summarize your point of view in 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. So very good presentation by Gulrez. I kind of summarizes everything that we need to know for a match, but I'll give you 2 cents on my perspective about it. First of all, regarding the decision between J1 and H1, to be honest, it's not that of a decision anymore, because most of the programs are not offering H1 anymore. So if you are considering a program that used to sponsor H1B, and they have this reputation that there was a H1B program, I would be very careful. I would go to the last session and I would try to reach out to the graduating or the current residents. Did they actually get H1B last time? Because last time, or even for the last 2-3 years, the program that I was dealing with, and even before that, most of the programs that used to offer H1B are not offering H1B anymore. So just be very careful. Do not rank a program just on the basis of H1B, because they are the ones who are offering H1B, so I should rank those programs high. On the contrary, you had very good fellowship oriented residency programs on H1 that you just missed out because you thought you would get H1B. I would say it's like 5 to 10%, even less than 5% that are going to offer H1B in the current scenario, in this current situation. It might change in the next few years, but for this year, I would be very careful. I don't think there are many programs who are offering H1B visa. Number 1. Number 2, then it comes to ranking the program on, I'm just going to talk about J1 now, because I don't think H1 is in the picture. If it was in the picture, then I would say yes. The other questions were regarding fellowships and things like that. That's a separate question. I think anyone can get into fellowship. If you are on H1B or on J1, that is a moot point. It's just getting into residency. Afterwards, you have a shot. Whichever residency programs you got into, you can be matched. There's no doubt about that. I've seen people who were matched from really, really very basic training programs who just started training this year, no in-house fellowship, and they matched into really good programs because they were hardworking. They worked during the residency. The residency is the first step into your career. Don't think it's the last step. You got in the residency, you're done. That's the mentality that will lead you to failure. So going into fellowships, it's a separate discussion that we'll have once you're in the residency training program. But my 2 cents is pick your program based on the factors that matter to you. First of all, if it's a renowned, famous program, Stanford, Harvard, big university program, then definitely it's a slam dunk. I think you should choose that, unless there's like a red flag, there's some issue that you have economically, or it's a place that's really not affordable to live at, and you're considering other options, then of course you can think about it. But in general, big university programs, you should definitely rank them. and especially in current scenario, because there's no H1B that's going to confuse you. So big university programs, rank them high. Secondly, I would vouch with Dr. Tariq, Dr. Sadiq. This family-oriented decisions are very important. I personally chose this program that I was trained into because of the family. I knew what I'm going into. I knew people there. They were my friends in the training program, and I knew where I could live. I knew how affordable the living is. In the hindsight, there were a couple or 2-3 programs that were actually better than the residency program that I got into. Wayne State University, DMC. I could have gone to the couple of other programs, but I was very happy. First of all, I really wanted to be in the program. I had friends there. I knew where I could live, and I knew where I'm going to rent my house or buy my house, and my spouse can come in and things like that. Those were the factors that were important. Plus, minus 2 or 3. Okay, this program is ranked 50th on the US list, or this program is ranked 45th on the US list. That does not matter anymore, right? It's not that big of a factor. Oh, why did I pick a program that was 45th on the US link, not the 50th one? At that point, it does not really matter. Unless you are choosing between a number 1 ranked program and a number 50th ranked program. Yes, definitely you should choose the number 1 ranked program. But when it comes to programs that are very close by, then I would really choose based on your factors about your economy. How are you going to survive there? Where are you going to live? The factors that are this program is this program going to be spouse friendly? Is your spouse a doctor, or is she going to work? Will she be able to find work there? If she's a pharmacist, she's any other field, will it be easy for her to get work there? Because overall, once you start your residency, it is very important for you to have a healthy life, right? If you'll have a healthy life, if you'll be comfortable in your program, and you have a healthy environment, then you can work, then you can do research, and you can match anywhere you want to. I think that these are my 2 cents on it, and we can answer questions later.
Thank you very much. So I will go to Dr. Numan Ashraf. So maybe in 1 to 2 minutes, if we can wrap up. So I would like to go to, questions by 10:45.
Assalamu alaikum. So I think everyone has summarized it really nicely. The only thing I would add, I think we've talked about the family. Also look at the community, where you are, your ethnic preferences. So just try to be in that town, because if you look at the burnout rate in residence is about 50%. So at some point you're gonna run through that. So if you're having those issues, you need support. And for that, you want to be in a community where you have at least some people that you can go to and talk about if you're struggling with those things. But I think all other rank order issues have been discussed already. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go with Dr. Mishal Khan. So if you can talk about your perspective, because you are very fresh and you just have gone through this process.
Hey everyone, so I'm a PGY1 at University of Oklahoma, and I went through the virtual interview process like most of you have gone through. And honestly, I felt like the hardest part about it was just to get a vibe of the program. Everything that's important in your rank order list, the location, the fellowship opportunities, the visa status has already been discussed. A few other things that I had in my mind was, again, how couple friendly the program was. Because if your spouse is going to apply the year after you can't really sit for a couples match. So obviously that's something you have to keep in mind. Cost of living has already been discussed. That's also a very important factor that you need to keep in mind, especially if you're going to move with a family, especially if you have kids, because then you also have to keep in mind that you might have to find yourself in an area which has, I think there are school zones and stuff. I'm very unfamiliar with all of this, but obviously these are things that you might have to keep in mind, obviously. I think one of the major things that I kept in my mind when making this decision was just the vibe I got from the residence session. If I felt like the residents weren't really close to their seniors or their juniors, that wasn't my top preference, because obviously I'm leaving my entire country and my entire family behind. I want to find myself in an environment that's supportive of whatever I'm doing. So one, find yourself in a place where you have family. If not family, find yourself in a place where you already have friends. And if this is a completely foreign country to you with nobody you already know here, then definitely try to make your judgment slightly based on how your residence session went and how your attending session went. A lot of the attending sessions were very a lot of the interviewers were very distant, and that made me rank them slightly lower than attendings who were very open and chatty about how things are and very welcoming about, I think the fact that I was very unaware of where I was moving to. So they just wanted to answer questions and make me feel like they wanted me to be there. Obviously, this is a much lower factor if you're considering a competitive fellowship, then you might want to find yourself in a very competitive program. But again, this is something you should keep in mind. And I think that's pretty much all I have to add, except that there is no right and wrong way of making a rank order list. Most people are happy with where they end up. Just try to not overthink it. And I think always kind of discuss it with people who are very close to you. The pros and cons list is best discussed with those people because they can help you figure out what they think might be more important to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mishal Khan. So can you guys hear us? Someone commented in the chat that they cannot hear us. Can you hear us? If yes, just
we can hear you.
Just
yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I want to ask a question. I think Dr. Ahmed Khan is here, and he has been in similar situation. How to assess the friendliness of a program for spouse? Ahmed, are you there? Okay, if he's not here, I will wait for him. But Dr.
Can I answer that? Yep.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So my wife did residency after me, and we carefully weighed couples match versus matching a year or two afterwards. I think it really depends. You have to be very honest. In our situation, what really helped is I just asked the program directors, have you ever taken spouse of a resident in the past? And I would do that at every single interview. And there are some programs who were very forthcoming, very welcoming, and they were like, absolutely, we would do that. At the program where I matched, my wife was there. They said, can she meet us? And you can talk to the residents almost always, there is no one, like, it's not going to be a unique situation for you. Or most of the times the programs have had somebody who has matched there in past 20 years and had a spouse match. Just ask them, have you ever taken spouse of a trainee in the past 10 years or something like that? And just ask PD if that is something they would consider if you match, I think most of the programs are welcoming, unless the only situation is what I've seen is somebody who's a very, very good candidate, has excellent scores, excellent CV, and then the spouse had multiple attempts. If your CV is pretty similar, I don't think that should be an issue for most of the programs. The issue is if somebody is not that good, has attempts on exams, has multiple low scores and multiple red flags on the CV, would the program compromise enough for you to take that trainee? Most of the times, no, unless you're an attending. Sometimes for attendings, they make exceptions, but that's how I would tell you to go around it.
Okay. So maybe Gulrez, you can talk a little bit about couples match if you.
So I'm nowhere an expert in couples match because I have had not had the opportunity to work on it. But it's essentially where you and your spouse or your partner are kind of like ranking the programs. Firstly, it doesn't work out in our favor much because we don't get interviews from the same places most of the time. What happens is your spouse gets an interview somewhere or you get an interview somewhere, and then you request them to kind of give you an opportunity to your spouse as well because you are in a couple match. That's kind of like something that some of the approaches that are people have taken, but it's essentially like ranking the programs based on geography so that you can be in the same geographical area. And it's like you coordinate between two people to come up with a rank order list so that you can be together. It's rare that it has happened, like in the last 2 years, people are becoming more conscious about couples match. And I have personally seen at least 2 couples match in the last 2 years. One of them is in Western Michigan University, where they kind of like worked together and worked on the list together and ended up in the same program. But it's very tricky. It's not easy. I would say there is a guide, Apna Road to Residency. It has a 3-page document on couples match. It's available on the Apna website. I would read about it and approach it. I don't know. It's difficult, but it's possible. It's possible.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
If I can quickly add, sorry, Dr. Naveed, if I can quickly add here, I have seen at least 50 people do couple match in past 20 years. And I can very confidently say the success rate of couple match is only 5% for IMGs, or even less than that. So all those who are trying to do couple match, be very careful. I recommend all the people I mentor, and also my YouTube channel, I tell them all to one person who has a better CV, get the match, and then leverage your contacts and your experience to get your spouse the match the next year. That is so much more safer than doing couples match. Couple match is very risky. After weighing all this, doing all the research, I personally didn't do it myself. I helped my wife get the residency the next year, and that's what I would recommend everyone.
Okay. Dr. Michelle Khan, I have a question for you. Actually, a couple of people asked this question. Does writing letter of intent help? And the second sort of similar question is, what is the right time to send the letter of intent to a program?
So personally, I do think the letter of intent helps in getting you interviews towards the end, especially when they might have some open slots because people back out at last minute. And if your email just arrived and your CV is kind of good enough for the program, then they are likely to just send you the interview. So I think it helped me get about 2 interviews in January. I'm not sure if it helps with ranking because I have no idea how any of that worked in the background. So I can't really comment on that. The ideal time for a letter of intent was early January to tell them that you are interested and you would like an interview. But as far as the letter of intent that says that you're going to rank them highly, I think now is the appropriate time to be sending that. I don't know if it helps, but we've all done it. I emailed it to my top 5 programs. So yeah, this would be the time.
Dr. Numan Ashraf, can you share your PD perspective on that? Does it matter in ranking, or what are your opinions on that?
Right. So I would say, yeah, it does matter. It's always nice to receive a letter. So what you want to do is you don't want to send too many letters. That's where there's a problem. So once you finish the interview, you send out a thank you email, and or some people do handwritten note. Either way is fine, and you send it to people who interviewed you. So that's the first thing. And then around the rank order list, so about mid-January, I would say, like we have finished our rank order list, right? We have had the meeting. So we will be just putting it into the computer when it opens into the system in IMP. So mid-January probably is a good time when you want to send out an email and something along the lines that you have finished your interviews and these are the reasons you like this program. So not like a generic email, make it specific. Why do you like this program? What would you bring to the program? What you want to get from the program? Like our last paragraph of our personal statement kind of thing, but it makes it more personal. Like if you had an interview with the program director and there was something important you guys talked about, or a core faculty, and you guys talked about something important, mention that. So it makes it more personal. I think that always helps.
Thank you.
Sadip, just 1 second.
Go ahead.
One thing is, as Dr. Ashraf pointed out, personalize that email. Try to put in at least 1 sentence from the conversation that you had with that person. If you did not have an interview with the PD, it makes sense to do a generic email at that point. As far as how much it helps, I'm kind of like one of those like bear Charles, like it's been happening. Let's just keep doing it. IM side is a little bit more busier. They really don't have time to kind of like go through your email and push you up a little bit on your rank order list, especially when they're interviewing 400 people. But everyone does it. I would do it. I did it for my fellowship as well. I just matched in fellowship this year, so I would do it.
So I do want to add 1 cent. I think it's very tricky, to be honest, emailing program director about anything. And I think it depends on personality. I've had program directors who really loved some letter of intents and some rank order letters. My last program director in my fellowship, she was a very kind and warm person. And if someone reached out to her in a very like a decent way, in a genuine, heart-filled, letter saying that I really love this program. This is the reason, especially because your programs serves underserved population and things like that matter. Like that program was based for underserved population. So if you say that, oh, I really love to work with the underserved population, that would really spark a connection, and you might get a boost up, right? That's one thing. But it could be really tricky. I would avoid putting generic letters because from a program director standpoint, if you okay, thank you so much, you ranked me. Really, like, do I need you to rank me to fill my program? So it could be like, it could bring out negative emotions, to be honest. I would only recommend writing a letter of intent if you really have something to say, something important, and that's something that you really had a good connection with the program. Otherwise, I would not recommend that.
Thank you. And just to add to that, we were recently we are hiring actually some therapists. I did not get a thank you or, or letter of intent sort of letter from any of the candidates. I got from one, and that was I was so appreciative of that. We are all human beings, so would like to connect. So please send it. And, like everyone is saying, make it more specific to the program, things that you liked about that program. People like to hear that. Umar bhai, I think many people have talked about this. So maybe if you can keep it 30 seconds.
Sure. So quickly, the thing is, if you think about your perspective, if you meet 20 people and one of or two of them send you a thank you email, you will like that, right? You will remember that person seems more personable. So we all want to work with people who are friendly and personable. But a very important point that I want to make here is when you're sending thank you emails or letter of or email of interest and all that, how many emails? I don't think for the entire residency season of like 4 to 6 months, emailing, I don't think you should email more than 3 times for your interest, for thank you and all that. It's very important. I have seen people email 20 to 30 times throughout the time period of 4 months. So I just want to say that please don't do that. Keep your emails short and to the minimum. Only 1 or 2 emails in Jan, Feb, 1 or 2 emails before interviews and 1 email after interview.
Thank you. So I want to move on from this topic. I think we discussed it enough. I have a question from Dr. Maroof, and then I will go to Dr. Ahmed Rehan Khan. So there was a question about J1 community program versus H1, J1, university program and H1 community program. So what would you suggest in that case?
So it depends on which university program, right? Not all university programs are same. So if you're talking about Mass General, if you're talking about Harvard, definitely I would go for H1, regardless of whatever J1, regardless of whatever the community program is offering, because at the days end, it does not matter that much. You can do a 3 years river and you can do like, it's not that big of a deal. But I would be very careful about the community program that's offering a H1B. Are they sure that they'll be able to offer H1B program in this current situation? I'm very doubtful of that. Last year, a handful of people only got H1B. Most of them that were offered, okay, we offer H1B, but they ended up never offering H1B anymore. There's so many programs who used to offer green card. They would offer H1B. They would apply for your green card in your second year. They stopped doing that. They even actually moved towards H1B. So can you imagine a jump from offering a green card to a H1B in this current pandemic and its current situation? So most programs are not offering H1B. If they have had H1Bs last year, that's the only possible indication that I would go for this program. Okay, this program was able to hire people on H1B last year, and it's a decent program. Versus I have university programs which are like average. They are not like top 5 or top 20 ranked university programs. Only then I would go for H1B.
Thank you. Dr. Ahmed Rehan Khan, can you talk a little bit about couples match?
Yes, I would like to, thanks, Dr. Navir. I would like to add a little bit. So there are basically 2 ways to go about that couples match. So one way is that both you and your spouse apply separately. And then once you guys interview, and at the end, you can link your profile in NRMP, and then you will make a set of programs. It could be 20, 30, 40, where you can both end up matching. That's one way. The more conventional way is that you link your profile right from the beginning. That way works more for AMGs because AMGs have a more, because they are AMGs, they can ask programs and programs would listen to them. For IMGs, it usually doesn't work, especially if one applicant has a very good CV, high scores, and other applicant does not have. So it won't work. And sometimes it can even go on the other way, that if your profiles are linked and say a residency program wants to offer interview to the one partner in the couple who has good CV, and they feel that because the profiles are linked and they don't want to offer interview to the other one, so they would just altogether refuse to interview any one of you. So that's one thing. But there are examples. There was a couple, I mentored a couple from KE a couple of years ago. One of them had 260, 70 scores, and the other one had 240s. And they both ended up getting matched in University at Buffalo IM, which is a very good university program for IMGs. So keep this thing in mind, that it's complicated. For IMGs, for AMGs, it's a very good thing. They all do it, but for IMGs, it's complicated. So you have to weigh your options. And I think Dr. Tariq said it's better if one of you have a very strong CV. It's better for you to get matched, and then for the spouse to apply next year. That's number one. I would also like to add about the spouse friendliness, just a few quick things. Again, as most of you have mentioned, unless program is very friendly, it has a history like my University of North Dakota psychiatry residency program. It has a history where they have taken siblings, they have taken spouses. They would definitely take you unless your spouse has like multiple red flags, or they just do something very wrong in interview. But most of the times now, because the competitive programs have become very competitive, unless your spouse have a very good CV, it's not a sure shot thing that they would take you. Or if you are an attending and you have something like you do procedures, or they desperately need you, then of course they can make an exception. But for residents, it's very hit or miss, especially during these days. So yep, that's my input on these two topics.
Thank you. Dr. Fateh Shehzad, are you there? So maybe anyone else can answer this question. So with H-1B, does it require yearly stamping, or stamping is done every 3 years?
I think, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just answered this, Sadiq bhai. Yeah, it's yearly. So rare instances, people are getting it for 3 years. This happened because Pakistan doesn't give out visa to US nationals for more than a year. So it was kind of a reciprocative thingy that happened, and it's being stamped for 1 year at this point.
Okay.
Yes, every H-1B and J-1 is stamped for 1 year all the time. So 1 year, yeah. It used to be 3 years for New York and Chicago, but now it's 1 year period.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So,
and it is going to be like this for the foreseeable future. It is going to be every year now. They're not going to change it back to 3 years anymore.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Mishal Khan, so if you can answer this, very easy, I think I try to answer that. Can we rank two specialties together? Like 2 IM and then family medicine and then again IM. Akshay, if I may have misunderstood your question, so if you want to come on the mic and ask your question, if you're still here. Okay, Michelle, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I think somebody else who might have applied to two specialties would be better suited to answer that, because since I only applied to internal medicine, I'm unsure of how this would
answer that question. So I actually got interview from internal medicine and psychiatry. So when I was doing rank order list, I ranked psychiatry first, and then I ranked internal medicine, then I ranked psychiatry, then I ranked psychiatry. So this is how it works. Dr. Umar Tariq, so I think the question is, I sort of have to find that question, H1 new program versus J1 program, or H1 new program versus J1 university program.
And Sadiq bhai, while you're asking this question from Dr. Tariq, somebody just asked about the advanced and the prelim positions, and Umar bhai is a radiology, so he might be able to answer that question as well.
Sure. Go ahead.
So sure. What was the first question again?
So
that was the.
Yeah. So do you have to do separate NRMP registration? And I think you answered this. Do you?
No.
Okay.
No.
And then the second question is H1 new program versus J1 program, H1 new programs versus J1 university programs.
So Sadiq bhai, this is again very variable. For some people, getting the green card is more important than getting better training. For some people, getting better training is the most important thing, even if they have to be on J1 for next 50 years. Like I'm just saying, talking to different personalities, I mentored a lot of programs 10 years ago. I used to tell people, get into the best training. And now a lot of them told me that was the wrong guidance, because now they're all doing waivers for 3 to 4 years, suffering, getting low paid jobs and getting overworked. They say, I wish we have done H1. But then the question is, now at least on King Edward USMLE forum, all of them are saying always rank an H1 program on top of J1 program. But I disagree with that. I say it depends on the person. Most of the people who do H1, what they do is like they make sure first that the residency program does offer H1. Like a lot of people say, most of the programs have swayed away from offering H1. First thing is that once you make sure that they do offer H1, do your 3 years of residency. And then it's almost impossible to get H1 fellowship. What a lot of people do, in my experience, who do H1 residency, is they work for 1-2 years as a hospitalist. And I'm talking specifically for internal medicine, get their green card in 1 to 2 years. And if any of you guys can't find a program, reach out to me. I'll get you interviews on those programs who can get you green card in 1 to 2 years. Once you get your green card, then you apply for fellowship. And that fellowship is on a green card. You're not applying for fellowship on J1. So that's the H1 path. The J1 path is you do your 3 years of training, then you do your 3 years of fellowship training on J1. And if you want to do an advanced fellowship training, there is a 7-year limit, but you can write a letter along with your program director and get an exception to that as well. So there are different pathways. But then after doing all of your training, you work for 3 to 5 years on a waiver job. And the more subspecialized you are, let's say you're an electrophysiologist, or you're an interventional cardiologist, or you're a transplant surgeon, it would be that challenging for you to find that waiver job, because they're just very few as compared to finding a waiver job as if you're a hospitalist, something like that. So that's very important. Talking about the advanced and prelim, let's say, before I answer that, I will also talk about specialty. I interviewed in medicine, surgery, and radiology, right? So I ranked all of them. So let me say how I would have ranked it. Talking about prelim. So I remember, because cost of living was important, I ranked Yale University #1. And then the corresponding prelim for Yale University was Yale University Surgery, Waterbury Yale University Prelim Surgery, and then some other East Coast programs. And the last one was Stanford, because I wanted to just relocate once. Then my #2 was another East Coast program. #3 was Stanford University. For Stanford University, I ranked the prelim for Stanford at #1. Right. And then other programs that were Oregon was #2, because what you want to do is you give a separate prelim for every advanced position. And once you do that, so once I did that, all my radiology programs and their corresponding prelim, then I ranked my internal medicine programs. That was my backup. And at the end, if let's say I didn't match into advanced position, and let's say I didn't match into my categorical IM position, then I listed my prelim surgery programs only. So that means if I don't match into it in any of those, at least I will match into the prelim surgery 1-year program. You wouldn't get that if you don't list your prelim surgery programs at the bottom, or your internship, whatever that is, at the bottom. You have to list them separately. I know you already listed them along with your advanced position, but that means that you will only get them if you match for that advanced spot. Okay, and make sure you list as many programs as you can. List every single program. The reason I say that, I know a lot of people who apply for advanced position, they got an advanced position, but they ranked the corresponding prelim only for 3 or 4 programs. They didn't match into those 3-4 programs. They got the advanced position. They didn't get the prelim position. They ended up losing their residency spot. So that's very important. So I think I answered all these 3 questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Nadik bhai, one thing, I'm an H1B. I can share some perspective about the fellowship aspect. I graduated from Mount Auburn in Cambridge. It's a Harvard affiliated program. I did not match in HEMONC on my first attempt as a 3rd year. I did my hospitalist for 3 years at Medical College of Wisconsin, but I played it very smartly. Now it's time for subspecialty hospitalists. I'm a HEMONC hospitalist. I don't even look at medicine patients. There are GI hospitalists. There are cardiology hospitalists that are being hired. So if you play your math smartly, there is a chance. But I talked to my program director, and the reason he told me that he took me was because I was in the field of HEMONC. Bigger programs usually don't prefer taking in candidates who have been in hospitals for a few years. So it's a little bit tricky, but then it's very program oriented, very independent, very dependent on the environment that the program director works in, or the program has taken up people in the past for fellowship. So it's difficult either way, but I just wanted to share the other perspective as well on it. It's not, fellowship is getting trickier, it's getting difficult one way or the other. But everything works out. Just do your best, whatever you understand is better, and it's your personal choice.
So,
And
sorry.
one quick, I think that goes without saying that whatever your top 5 choices are, I would try to reach out to someone who's actually working in that program. If you are considering, some program that is new H1B or like a recent H1B program, try to reach to a resident that's there. If you can, there are so many online forums, Apna, there are like, all of them alumni is there. You can find them on Facebook, to be honest, and just reach out to them. Or this is my situation. I'm trying to rank this program based on whatever information I have. I just want more information, and they would be happy to help you. And I think that's the best way to actually have more information. You need more information for your top choices, at least, to make sure that you're making the right decision.
And one thing Sharam just pointed out is because some of the programs have started mentioning H1s are given on case-to-case basis, or H1s are given in limited quantity. So make sure if you are preferring an H1, you reach out to that program director or that program coordinator to confirm, or as Sharam kind of pointed out, reach out to the residents over there and see like, hey, is there anybody who got the H1B or not? Because last year there were a lot of programs because step 3 was being delayed, results were coming out late, so they pushed those candidates on getting J1 rather than H1. And I know a couple candidates who ended up getting J1 just because of the circumstance.
Okay, thank you. So we are almost close to the end of the session, so I will request all the panelists, if one question, one answer. I have one question for Dr. Fateh Shahzad. So earlier in the chat, someone asked a question. If, let's say, if someone is a Pakistani national and they are living in Saudi Arabia, should they apply for visa from Pakistan or Saudi Arabia? I think answer is obvious, but can you answer that question?
Sure, it has happened both ways. There were 2 residents last year. They applied from Saudi Arabia. They were both rejected. Then they went to Pakistan and they got approved. This year, but they were not J1, they were B1 from Jeddah, and one was from Doha. Both got approved. They were both Pakistani nationals. But I will say for J1, they should go to Pakistan, get in there.
Thank you.
Because the country of nationality is better for J1 and H1.
And with Apna's advocacy, I think we can get you across the finishing point. So it's always better to go through Pakistan, and I think we have way more contacts in Pakistan than in
Yes.
Anyone who wants to answer this question. So the question was, what is R3 registration? Do we need it for rank order list? Anyone?
Yes, that is the matching algorithm. That is the system where you register, get a token, and put in your rank order list. And the video that I showed is the R3 algorithm itself.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't do that, you won't match.
Yeah, and someone, if they're trained in New York, so difference between New York City community programs versus New York upstate community programs. Anyone can answer that.
Looks like none of us trained in New York.
But all of us can answer that, but we didn't train there.
So cost of living is low. Of course, I know a few people who, and I go to Manhattan pretty frequently. You're renting a very small studio for $2,400, $2,500. So cost of living is a very big factor. And if you're in suburbs, the cost of living is low. I think the training is pretty much the same. It's pretty good training in New York. That's mainly it. New York in general is spouse friendly. I can tell you that because there are a lot of programs. Let's say you match into Jamaica Hospital and your wife doesn't get into Jamaica Hospital, she can go into Brooklyn Hospital. So
one downside about city community hospitals is the nursing unions. So you do end up doing a lot of nursing stuff, like blood draws, catheters, and patient transfers. But this happens in purely Bronx related programs, and and some outside as well. But like Mount Sinai is an amazing place to train. There are Albert Einstein is a good place to play. Montefiore is a very good place to train. So there are some amazing programs as well, but there are some which are okayish as well. But eventually, we all will be same after 3 years. We all will be ACGME accredited. We will be pretty much working on the same jobs or working on fellowships. So there is not much difference.
Yeah, thank you. So, I really want to apologize for people who can join in because of the, limit on the participant capacity. We'll do a webinar next time, so it has capacity of 300. Allama Iqbal Alumni is doing a webinar tomorrow on rank order list. The info is on the Apna YPC, so please join that. APA, American Psychiatric Association, their IMG caucus is also doing a rank order list webinar tomorrow, so you can also join them if you're a psychiatry applicant. I want to give people like 2 to 3 minutes just to bring up any questions in the chat if these were not answered. In the meantime, I don't know if Dr. Waqar Azim is here. He is professor of psychiatry, professor of child and adolescent psychiatry. Actually, he's second only professor of child and adolescent psychiatry in US from Pakistan. He's chair of Sidra Medical Center, Doha. If you are here, do you want to share your thoughts?
Assalamu alaikum, Sadiq. Thank you, everyone. It's amazing. I remember doing my residency in '96. And at that time, we didn't have all this guidance. But I think you covered everything very well. I will just say a couple of things. One thing which I think Michelle mentioned, it's important where you want to go, but I think it's even more important that people want you to work there. Secondly, I'm old school. I actually personally like the cards, and it was in front of me when I was doing the ranking at Yale. I was the associate training director. So when the cards were in front of me, it do make a difference when I'm making a rank list as a program director. And lastly, showing your intent, sharing specifically about the program, what has been like, do make a difference. I even asked 2 other people alongside with my faculty for their input. One was my assistant, that how this person was with non-physician people. Are they just nice to just faculty? And secondly, the residents. That makes a big part. Personally, I remember I only had one interview when I did my residency and I matched there. And you just need one interview. Sometimes luck played a part, but I think if you work hard, put genuine effort, things usually work out well. Thank you so much.
I will take these 2 to 3 last questions. Fatewai, if you're here. So I got a private message. I'm on J1 research visa at Mass General. Should I go back to Pakistan to get my J1 change from J1 research to J1 clinical?
I think that question was also asked by me too. So he can, I don't know if it's he or she, I think it was a girl. So it can be done. The J1 research can be changed while the person is in USA. It's called change of category. J1 to J1, J1 can be converted to H1 because it's a research. J1 clinical cannot be converted to H1. And J1 research can be converted to J1 clinical. If it is J1 to J1, there's no the expedited processing and it takes longer time. So I will recommend going back and getting it done in Pakistan.
Okay, thank you. Umar Bhai, can you explain the part on prelim and categorical? And Umar Bhai also has shared a YouTube link. If you still are not able to understand that, just go to the link. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, Meridia, and we talked about all the topics that we talk about here on that YouTube channel. So you can specifically search Medidia and write that topic and it would pop up, including the rank order list. So before I do that, I just want to quickly, I have a video talking about that specific situation. If you are doing a J1 research and you're applying for J1 residency, what truly happens in that situation is who was funding your research. If your funding came from NIH, US government, then that's different as compared to if you were funded by another funding source. If you are funded from another funding source, none of those J1 restrictions like waiver countries, 7-year limit, they apply. That's J1 clinical. These are only J1 clinical things, the 7-year limit and all of those. The J1 research, if your funding came from US government, that's totally separate. So I'll also share the video of that. I've talked about it in complete details. So just watch that video. Going back, like I said, if you're doing the advanced ranking, rank your advanced programs, rank the corresponding prelim programs for every single advanced program. Then rank your categorical programs, the backup. Let's say internal medicine is your backup or whatever. Then rank your prelim programs at the bottom. Again, I'll share the link to that video in the description as well. You can listen to that.
Thank you very much. So many people ask about webinar for psychiatry tomorrow. I'm going to share my screen, but I will also share it on Apna YPC page. So this is the webinar that's going to be happening at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. I will share all of this info in Apna YPC group. If you have any further questions, you can post it there. I will also share the recording of this. I really want to appreciate all the panelists for their advice, for giving time out of a busy Saturday. And I also want to be thankful to all the participants for being kind and active. We wish you good luck. We are all here for you. So please reach out. Thank you very much. You all have a good day.